have the basic package of the simulator, you get this car, and it was one of the first cars I ever drove, and I had an immediate liking for it, honestly, because it reminded me of one of my favorite cars ever. Excuse me.
With this which car?
Well, my favorite, hello everybody out there on the YouTube audience. We have sorted out our issues and we are now live. So I will restart what we said already. Hello everybody and welcome to Redline Motorsports here in Race Room Racing Experience in the NSU Championship that we are doing here. All NSU cars here at Red Bull Ring today and will do for the next 6 weeks or so until we crown a champion. These cars, very interesting cars, air-cooled, and you join us as qualifying just underway here. 15 minutes or so, now 12 minutes of qualifying left as you see these drivers trying to get every little bit out of these cars. And as you joined us, I was talking about I like this car because it reminds me of one of my favorite sim racing cars of all time, and that's the Lotus Cortina from GT Legends. I love that car, and it's incredibly similar to that car in some ways. It's fun to throw that thing around in the same way with the NSU. But welcome along, everybody, to qualifying. Remember, this is 2 20-minute races. And the top 10 finishing order of the first race, we will reverse the grid, which means if you finished first in the first 20-minute race, you will be starting 10th in the second race. And I will re-announce who I am. I am Jesse Lee. Hello, and welcome here to the RLM Network. And I will also reintroduce my co-commentators, Fabian Schmedberger and Thomas Crabb. Fabian, feel free to say everything you just said again.
Yeah, it just feels like Groundhog Day all over again. Well, we've talked a bit about these cars. These are NSU TTS cars. They are from 1969, and they are from West Germany. And this also explains what the NSU stands for, which is Neckarsulm, which is a German location, or West German if you want to be precise. And this very interesting car has 122 brake horsepower and a weight of 620 kilograms. Which is not much. I guess one of the reasons why it's so light is because you have really no safety measures here. So you don't really want to get into trouble with these cars because they really look like lunch boxes. But this should make for a very interesting race. So, Thomas, what do you think about these cars?
I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to battle out on track. I've just been watching recently the old Goodwood revival videos, all the races there, of all the cars from the 60s, 70s, really light-bodied, low-powered cars using draft to try and overtake one another and just being nose to tail for a good 15-20 minutes. And I hope that's what we get here today. I don't really expect any difference in that, as the older cars, you know, people like to go on about the heyday of racing, and when it comes to touring cars, I am very much with them. It's just the no aerodynamics on the cars, plus the limited weight and the horsepower and the ability to slide it into the corners like this guy's doing now. Michael Kasperink is doing in first place. It's quite fantastic to see these cars.
Well, sorry, Jesse. You actually said something very interesting here with those no aero here, because the only aerodynamic thing on this car I can think of is probably the rear of the car with the I don't know how it's actually called, the cover that is on the rear of the car that is open.
The boot.
The boot, yeah, the boot that is currently open. So this probably acts as a rear wing. So this is the only aerodynamic device I can see on this car.
Is the boot covering the engine? Is the engine at the back or at the front? Because I keep seeing something in there, but I can't quite make out what that is.
I think you will find that. That is indeed the case. I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, the engine is in the boot or the trunk, as the Westerners would say, of the car, and that's why the boot is open, because this car is indeed air-cooled. And Volkswagen would eventually go on to buy NSU and the Prince, which is what this is. I believe this is a NSU TT, otherwise known as a Prince. And I guess, birds of a feather, they stick together. And if I'm incorrect about the engine placement of the car, I'm sure somebody out there will allow me or will alert me to that. And Thomas, I have to agree with you. I love the way these cars look. I love the way that these cars drive, and I love how these guys have to drive these things. They put fat, wide tires on these cars that weren't never meant to be on these things. But of course, in a racing scenario, you got these big fender flares and the pseudo aerodynamics that Fabian alluded to earlier. But this is one of the great things. I love this sort of era of touring car racing. I love everything about this. This is the sort of thing that hairy-chested man's car, I think, is what Jeremy Clarkson would call this. And you don't need, and this proves the point, folks at home, you don't need a lot of power to have a lot of fun and go sideways. And I think you're going to see a lot of that here, as Kasparink has the fastest time so far. That's a 1:58, nearly dead with half of qualifying in the books. We follow Mark Brown now, who his quickest was a 1:59.5, but seems to be going quicker here. He was a little slower in his first sector. We'll see when he trips the second sector time. Or excuse me, there's only 2 sectors here, I've just noticed. Thought there were 3. No, there are 3, excuse me. So he is not on a quick lap, and he does not improve there. He was about a 10th or less, actually, off his fastest time. Thomas Crabb, is there anything you're going to be looking for in this race? Because this is sort of new to all of us. None of us have ever done a race room racing experience race together, and none of us have ever really seen these cars or these drivers in action. Is there anything you're going to be looking forward to today?
One thing I'm really looking forward to is even though it's a shorter race, I do think there's going to be some strategy involved in this, not with pit stops or anything, but where you're going to place the car. The cars are so small here that you could probably go, looking by the track width, 5 cars wide, so there is some opportunities for lots of overtaking. Being in that first place with no draft, with everyone battling behind you, you might be able to get away. But if the guys behind the leader manage to stay in the line and keep with the leader, you could literally bring it down to the last corner on the last lap, and I think anyone here can win as long as they play the cards right.
That's a fabulous analysis. I think that too. We do have a bit of a disparaging point at the top here. We've got Kasparink, who is driving away from Grönmark right now. That is not a typo, folks. That is 1.3 seconds a lap quicker. Of course, this is just qualifying, and if you've ever watched an RLM race before, you know that qualifying and racing are 2 completely different things. And I've seen quite a number of these RLM race room races in the past, not necessarily the NSU, mind you, but other things. And I've certainly seen it go completely sideways for the pole man. So don't think this is over. And oh, by the way, even if he wins, Mr. Kasparink, that is, he's going to go back to 10th for the second race, and just as I talk about him, he resets quick lap again at a 1:57.6. That's 1.7 seconds clear of the field, Fabian.
Yeah, and I just noticed once you told us the lap times of Kasparink is we are at Spielberg, which is usually in Formula One, for example, a place where you have very, very low lap times of around 1:07 or something like that. So that shows you how slow and how old these cars are actually, because they are like, 50 seconds slower than a Formula One car. Well, of course, you shouldn't compare these cars to Formula One cars, but even if you compare them to regular street cars, I guess even a regular street car would do a 140, 150 maybe on this track. So this just shows you how old these cars are, basically.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. And we got some comments coming in from our YouTube chat. Feel free to ask us questions in the YouTube chat. We will attempt to answer as best we can when we can. And No guarantees if we'll see it or not, but we do have a question coming in there while we're here in qualifying. Is asking, why can't they keep these things on the track? Well, my suggestion would be fire up your copy of Racer Racing Experience, which is free to download and play, by the way, and take this NSU for a spin, and you will find out firsthand why this is really difficult. These cars, they slide around better than the drifting champion car does. These things, you are fighting these things. These things are from the late 60s and early 70s. You are fighting these things. These things are ornery. They do not want to listen. And these drivers are doing the Lord's work, as I would say, getting these things to go around here in any sort of shape. I'd be 2 minutes 5 at least, I reckon. But that's why these things are back end heavy and they're drift heavy. And I mean, you're just fighting them all the time. Do either of you guys have any experience with this car?
No, I've only actually re-downloaded Race Room today. Last night, in fact. I used to play it a few years ago, but only in the GT3 cars. I liked the idea that I could play it in VR, and it was quite easy to play. But now I'm looking at this car, and I've seen a couple of other packs that Race Room has that is kind of the older touring car era, and there's some GTs and stuff like that. I really want to get back into that again. Although they look a little easier to handle than drifting cars. After a little bit of drifting I've done, I don't think they've got enough power to continue going around any of the harsher corners here. But maybe if they have a little bit of if they start sliding and someone is nudging them along, maybe they will have the ability. I wonder, being that these are touring cars, I wonder how feisty they're going to get with one another, if there's going to be much touching. And I don't think we have any live stewards today, so we're going to be doing that all after race. So they still have to be careful, though. If they accumulate enough points, they will be kicked from the championship. So they still have to play nice to one another. But there is some effect of rubbing as racing when it comes to touring cars. The first things to go will be those magnificent wheel arches that are protecting the wheels there. And try not to get those lodged into someone else's tires. They'll end up with a puncture.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's a good point. We will look for damage here. These guys are sort of hanging on by a thread, getting these cars around here. And keep in mind, this is a modern F1 circuit. It's not like anything these cars would have driven back in the day, though I suppose you could argue that Red Bull Ring hasn't changed too much. One of the reasons I think we're here today, and I don't mean to put words in the organizer's mouth, but these cars would have raced here if I'm not very much mistaken back in the day. Qualifying down to its final 30-some seconds left, just enough time to get in that lap, if you please. Grandmark, by the way, who has consistently been chipping away at it. He's now down to 1.2 seconds back of our leader, our provisional pole sitter, I should say, but that's still 1.2 seconds back. He's sort of got a bit of a distance on third. That's David Simon, the British driver, who is almost completely deadlocked with Alexander Kruk there in fourth position. And then it's not that much far back at all to the Brit Mark Brown there. It's very interesting. There's a lot of cars as qualifying officially ends there. And they will have a 2-minute warm-up as you see the tail of the tape for the day. RLM's NSU Wednesday Champ Round 1. We are here at Red Bull Ring, also known as Spielberg. It is 21 degrees C in the air. Track is 28. A light 2-kilometer wind. It's sunny and dry. Fabian, what are you looking forward to in this race as far as the start goes? Are you expecting them to get after it or just try and settle in?
I think they go full in just after the race start, and I think that Race Room is also a very, very good race sim actually for these close races. Because as far as I know, their netcode is actually pretty good, and you can race next to each other very, very well. So I look forward to some bumps and some touches there.
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can bump, you can touch, and you can nudge here in RLM as long as you don't go too far, obviously. They are allowed to race, and race they will do. Just want to give a shout out to the man behind the cameras. Fabian and Thomas and I are not working the cameras here today. That's Jake the Bosmeister Boswell doing all the heavy lifting today, getting the stream right for you guys, doing the cameras for us and you, and making things look absolutely fantastic. He's done an excellent job, and he's been setting that up with the boss man, as I call him, Simon, in the early behind the scenes. Just want to give a shout out to all those guys. There's just so many moving parts that make all of this possible, and I like to thank them as often as I can. You are here with me, Jesse Lee, Fabian Schmedberger, and Thomas Crabb, who is on the comms for this race. Keep in mind, it's going to be a 20-minute race, this first race, and after that, we're going to do it all over again, because why wouldn't we want to? But the catch is, for the second race, the top 10 will be reversed. If you win, you start 10th. Hey, and guess what? If you finish 10th, you start first. Just a bit of a mix-up, and that is how we like it here. We like to keep things interesting. 50 final seconds before they go to grid here. And I am excited, Thomas Crabb. I don't know what to expect.
No, I'm very much looking forward to this. The touring car fan inside of me is eager to get this race going. I couldn't be so bothered about qualifying. That's not going to make much of a difference once you reach turn 1 in these really light, powerful cars. The power to weight must be pretty good. And the track, and as we look at the little snip up on the screen again, the track and air temperature are absolutely perfect for this type of racing. There's going to be so much grip. So I think we're just about to go green soon, aren't we?
I believe so. And there we go. They are off. That is not a pace lap, ladies and gentlemen. That is green. And you see some jockeying back in the field. Everybody ducking, trying to find the right. There's a bit of a touch in the back for nearly the final few positions. It was a clean getaway for Kasperink right there. And then Gronmark right behind him. Can't say so much for the cars in the back. There's one completely sideways. 3, 4 abreast after the first turn. Nobody gets it too wrong, and they all get it sorted out as we go up for the run to turn 2.
They're doing what I thought they would, and that's pretty much stay in line as we watch. I think that's Simon come off on the inside of Crook, and he comes up on turn 2, and he managed to grab the inside as we watch the 508 of Juzo Kronmark. I'm really sorry for butchering her name, but the lovely Golf Racing coloured car. There's 3 of them in this race, and I understand why. The Golf Racing colours are absolutely legendary in the old racing circuit. Mark Brown is up on currently the outside in the Era 500 car of the number 4 Crook again. So Crook is actually holding up some of the field. He's already let someone go for 3rd position. Now he's going to let Mark Brown go 4th position, up now on the inside of that long right-hander. Yeah, I was trying to get my bearings there. It's hard to look at it. As we watch and they swap positions again. So the 101 and the 500 are just constantly swapping positions. I have a feeling this is going to continue for the whole 20 minutes. As Mark Brown has a look up on the inside, but cannot get it. You just watch the car rotating just so quickly. Just they're able to turn it, and it seems the rear end is actually much more stable than I had first envisioned. I was watching the front tires there, just absolutely grip and then grab the curb on the inside, and it pulled the car around, as this battle is actually bringing Giesta closer to these 2 guys. And actually I think Karuk is pushing a little harder as he's gaining a bit more on Brown and closing up on Simon. Simon making a pass on lap 1 on Karuk, as I thought I saw an instant in the background there. I think that is Michalski. He's actually one of the ACC NSX champ guys who I commentated on, I believe, last Tuesday. He did pretty well. I think he got off in a couple of incidents there as well. If we look back further towards the end of the grid, Fabian.
Yeah, I mean, we now have this very interesting 4-way battle for P10. No, sorry, P9. So this is a very interesting spot for the next race, because as we've already told you, P9 and P10 will be in the front row for the next race. So for these guys at the back there, it will be very, very crucial to get in these positions to get a very good race result for race 2.
Well, I have to wonder, Fabian, if you don't tank your race here for a point. I mean, does it really matter 9th or 10th? I mean, if you can have 10th place isn't that where you want to be? I mean, there's got to be a strategy play, and this is something that I'm not familiar with here at RLM because they've done races in series like this before, but certainly have not commentated on any. So I'm a bit conflicted personally of what they do. If I was in 9th place and I was being hounded by the 10th place guy, I might just not give him a big fight. I might just give him 10th place, knowing that that is reverse pole for the second race. And I'm not sure exactly how sporting that is, perhaps, as we ride on board with Crook here. Crook looking at Brown, who has gotten by. Crook has been hemorrhaging positions in the opening few laps, it must be said. But Brown, he's looking at Simon in front of him as Simon gets all sorts of sideways off the penultimate corner there. But that's the whole trick of this. Look how sideways they're getting in these cars. This is an excellent camera by the Bosmeister, showing you exactly what they're seeing and what they're dealing with. Somebody asked earlier why they're having trouble staying on the track. Look at how sideways you have to get these cars to turn them, and that's what I like. This makes me want to play this, and I will after this event is over. I'm going to get on track here with these NSUs. I cannot believe that I haven't already, as these guys are nose to tail. This is for 4th position, but excuse me, this is for 3rd position. I am incorrect, but all the way back to 5th. Has a shot as they go to fan out. They're going to fan out 3 wide here as they go up into the 2nd or 3rd turn, depending on who you ask. Inside move, a bit of a tap. There's a bit of a wiggle, and he's gonna lose a spot. In matter of fact, he's going to go to 5th again. This is exactly what I expected to see in this race, guys. I expected to see a little bumping, a little banging. Good touring car action here so far.
I think lucky enough for Brown there, the cars aren't powerful enough, so they couldn't pull away as much as he expected. So he's still inside that battle with the Gister in 6th place, not getting any closer. But now there's just brought Crook again in front of Brown. He's going to have to overtake him and then catch up to Simon again. It's just wasting them time. I think if Brown hadn't made that mistake, he would definitely be in 3rd place with Crook steadily up behind. And as I want to say something about the point about letting the guy for 10th place go. Possibly, maybe towards the end of the race, if you knew he was much faster and you wanted that pole position, then maybe that would be for the best. But at the start of the race, I wouldn't do that, because you would possibly lose that 10th place and end up in 11th, because they were in that 4-way battle that they are reasonably in now. They are a little further away as we watch Wigreski actually defend from Edwards. Just goes wide there, make sure he grabs the inside. They have the same livery, so this is going to get interesting to figure out who is who. But for the moment, Edwards is in 12th, and oh god, I'm really sorry about your name, but it's Wegrecki, I think, in the yellow, red and blue liveried car, as we now see the back of that livery. And he actually brakes a bit later, and he has to go up on the inside, and he's pushed him wide as he comes back on track, leaves him enough room. That's some good racing there. Although there may have been a tap, there was enough respect to bring him back. As we're now watching Nick Smith, and in fact we're actually going back to the battle now, as Wigrecki was in 11th place, and now he's in 12th with Edwards trying to defend the middle line a little bit, but he kind of lets it go. I think he's going to try and go grab the outside line. It's going to give him more momentum down to the next corner, and they're still side by side. And they're just going to get more and more aggressive with one another until one gives it away. But they've still got 12 minutes to sort this squabble out. I really hope they don't end up hitting each other off, but I do love that side-to-side hitting, just letting each other know where they are and how desperately they want it. Even down towards the end of the grid, they're going to be battling very, very hard, as we actually see one of the cars off. That is, who is that? Is that Makowski again? Or who's that going down? Krausitz. The Hungarian of Krausitz is in 13th place now, in the gravel trap. As we continue towards the battle for 10th place.
I'm jumping out of my seat, Thomas.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in. I'm just saying I'm jumping out of my seat. These guys have been side by side for the majority of this lap, and nothing has changed. They are still side by side. And I believe that was Kraus that was in the sand trap. Commentator here at RLM, the voice of RLM as they call him, Ryan Gill, said in chat earlier that these cars are nearly impossible to get out of the gravel trap once they're stuck. I think we saw that with that black car sitting in the gravel trap right there. He seemed to be having a heck of a hard time getting it out of there, but this battle for 10th place still goes on. Keep in mind, if Edwards finishes in 11th place, he starts 11th in the next race. If he takes this position, oh no, excuse me, it's been reversed actually, and the liveries are throwing me off. Yes, this is really hard to follow now, not from any fault from the cameras or the sim at all, just because they're in the same livery. So this is why they're fighting this hard. Whoever gets this 10th position gets the reverse pole for the second race. And it's incredible. We've already done 9 minutes of this race. There's only 11 minutes left. Everything to play for here. Nothing going on at the front of this field. Kasprink has disappeared to the tune of 4.2 seconds over Grandmark. This is the battle that we're focusing on right now because this is where the action is. I wonder, as you see the black car in the background did in fact get out of the gravel trap eventually, though he was stranded there for an age it seems. This is incredible racing. What do you think about it so far, Fabian, about the bumping, the banging, and the position swaps that we've seen?
Yeah, that's exactly how I wanted it to be. It's close, very close, sometimes very, very close, and they touch with each other, like now, for P10 currently. But it is still very fair, and that's props to the drivers, because I suppose it isn't easy to drive these cars, especially on the limit.
It's absolutely incredible, Fabian, because this battle right here has changed hands once again, where Grecki is back in front of Edwards. They cannot get... I thought that battle was done coming out of the second or third turn. I thought that Edwards was going to pull away, but no such dice, as here we go again. He gets as close as he possibly can to the back, coming through the penultimate corner, now to the final corner. They're getting every possible bit of power, and it's all about momentum with a car that doesn't have a lot of power. That's something you learn, and no matter what discipline it is, it doesn't matter if it's karting or oval racing or touring cars, you learn how to extract every bit of power and inertia out of something that is underpowered, and that's exactly what is on tap here today. We will continue to watch that battle as it continues, where Grecki right now is in the reverse pole spot, but we haven't forgot about this battle right now. This battle heating up as well. This is between Madzo and Smith. This is eventually going to be for 8th position. Nick Smith would very much like to have it. He's going to try and go around the outside here. He might have the whole shot. He doesn't, and falls back in line. This is incredible stuff, guys. Look at that camera work.
The draft, you can see, is actually very, very effective. The limited time that he was behind that Gulf Racing coloured car, he'd actually gained quite a lot of momentum as he has a look up on the outside as Madzo covers the inside and actually goes a little bit wide. That's going to open the door for the Jägermeister coloured car of Smith. And in fact, as I said previously, there's so little power in these cars that if you even make a mistake, you don't actually lose that much time. You could probably throw it off every other lap and still end up in the position you are. But sadly not the truth for Krautsitz, as he ended up in the gravel trap. But if you just make a little bit of mistake here and there, the car is forgiving, the series is forgiving enough that it will allow you to pick up where you were, but in fact hasn't worked out so well for Madzo, as Smith is now up into position. Looked like he had a lot more pace than Madzo, like catching up to him. Don't know how much the draft is effective up to second, as he was a little distance away, but it looks like Smith is very, very eager to use all of the curbs there. It seems like these cars just eat them up with the little wheels and really quite a lot of suspension range. You can do a lot of stuff to this car before it will chew you out and chew you and spit you out. As we now watch Madzo now has the draft on Smith coming up to T1, as we see the Valn in 7th place in the front of camera shot. So they're actually getting closer to that guy. being that he is on his own and he's not being pushed to his absolute limits, who knows if he is actually slowing down his pace with 7 minutes left to go. Might be worth to conserve your energy for the second race where you have to do more overtaking, being that you are further down the grid than you should be in all respects, as we actually have to go back to 11th, 10th, 11th.
Here we go again.
Is McGreckey and Edwards, as Edwards has the outside, McGreckey has the inside, and he does the comeback.
Oh, he dukes a hazards the curve.
Yeah, he ends up going mad, and he ends up smashing into the side of McGreckey there, and you can see him, he came off the power, he gave him a lot of room, and now they can continue racing again. So quite sportsmanship after that move went horribly wrong. Oh, as we watch Smith get it wrong coming out of that corner, and Mazzo bringing it right up on the inside, but Smith had managed to get quite good of a gap there before he made that mistake. So telling how hard he is pushing for this race. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have within 6 minutes. So as you said previously, this is more of the time with 1/4 of the race to go to be thinking about where I want to place myself for the next race. Does Smith want to be battling that hard, possibly giving himself a reason to throw the car off the circuit, not giving himself a swapped position? Remember, outside of the top 10 you don't get swapped, only the top 10 do, so the 10th position will go in first. So at the moment Mazzo would swap to 2nd place and Smith would swap to 3rd, so still pretty good as Mazzo goes very wide in the last corner. He's pushing this car very hard now, probably not used to having that draft, speeding his car up as both of them go very wide on that last corner. I'm loving that yellow Jägermeister livery. These, although very simplistic times, the liveries were very bold and got the message across, as we still have the two back in the background. So it seems to me, although not sadly because we still have the battles that we want, the battles are all for the rear positions and not for the front ones. And I can, in the second race, I can see that very much changing. Well, I don't know who is going to be winning that race as we continue to watch Mazzo up on the inside of Smith. Smith just, no wait, yeah, this is, yeah, this is right, isn't it? I thought I was looking at the wrong names. Yeah, Smith just covered off the corner correctly as Mazzo looks up on the inside and they have to draft again.
Cool. It is an absolute jungle out there as we continue to look at this rear fender cam of Nick Smith. That's Mazzo in the Gulf liveried NSU behind him. Will he try something? Will he throw it down to the inside? Yes, he will indeed, as Smith goes a little bit wide, and Mazzo says, thank you very much, I will go in there. Again, nothing up front. Kasperink is gone to the tune of 7.1 seconds, but that's okay. He will start 10th in this race. This is the battle for what effectively would be 3rd. And of course, you don't want to lay back too much if you have the pace, because every position, everything is worth points. And of course, this is, of course, you would want as many points as you could get. And of course, starting 3rd in the next race isn't that bad either, which is what 8th place would be doing. So in this case, I wouldn't be resting on my laurels. I would be going for it, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And Thomas, to your point about something you said earlier, as this battle continues, he's going to throw it back down in there again. There's going to be heavy contact in the final corner, but no harm, no foul as they continue on. That battle not going to be done, and look what we have here. We have a fight for the 3rd position. This is Crook and Simon. Crook, who had a not so great start, fell down the order all the way down to 5th as far as I'm aware, has recovered well enough to be thinking about getting on the podium for the first race of this new championship. He's right there. Look at Crook. He's going to go to the inside there. He's going to hop the curb. And Thomas, to what you were saying earlier, one thing that I've noticed, and you've noticed as well, these cars are eating curbs. I would not, in almost any car I've ever raced here at Red Bull Ring, be hitting these curbs this hard. But I think, to your point, these tiny tires in these small lightweight cars, I don't think the cars care too much about what you do with them as long as you're throwing them around. But this right here, this is Kirk, this is Brown this is Simon in front of him, I should say, and that is a battle for 3rd that seems to be persisting and will persist. 2 and 3/4 minutes left in this race. It goes by oh so quick, and we have been treated to an absolute delight here. The first race of the new NSU championship here at RLM. Going to bring you 6 different race weekends, 2 races apiece. keep in mind, you win the race, you start 10th in the next race. The top 10 order is reversed. You finish 10th where Regrecki is right now. That is going to be reverse pole for the next race. Every position, of course, is points and important. And that's exactly what you're seeing here, as you are still seeing, looking out the fender cam of Simon, looking back at Crook, who is having the long toe down the straightaway. My co-commentators mentioned earlier about how important the draft may be. I didn't realize it was going to be important, but look how important it is. They were absolutely right. He gets right up to him. He's going to have the inside. Does he go for it into the corner? Of course he does. No touching there as far as I'm aware. And they go back in line. Fabian, this has been an incredible race.
Yeah, but you see that sometimes it looks like they have troubles with passing each other because, well, it's the nature of the track itself. If they want to overtake in the third corner, for example, which is called Schlossgold, if you try to overtake there on the inside, the opponent actually has the left-hand corners that come after Schlossgold. To defend himself, because he will be in the inside there. So I suppose it should be a better strategy to try to pass someone on the outside of turn 3. But obviously your opponent won't let this door open for you. So it looks like it probably is very tricky for those people to pass someone, even if those cars are very small.
Nonsense. Get a fender in there and get the pass done. That's what I have to say about that. But Edwards, by the way, you may have noticed if you're looking at the timing board, Edwards has gone all the way down to 13th. Edwards was fighting Regrecki, if I'm not very much mistaken, for that 10th spot, and he's gone all the way out to 13th. So something untoward has happened in that. Not saying that there was contact or a battle, but certainly Edwards has went off and is all the way back into the 13th position. That is where he will start. No reverse order that far back. So if you finish 11th, 12th, 13th, you're going to start 11th, 12th, or 13th. As we take a look here at Nick Smith, who is still pursuing Madzo right now. This has not gone anywhere as the race timer has officially expired. And if I'm not mistaken, Kasprink has crossed the line. I'm not sure about that, though. But certainly he has a 10-second lead. He has not crossed the line. This is his final lap. Look at how hard Kasprink throws it into the corner. That's the nature of the beast. That's how you got to drive these cars. He's just basically doing a victory lap at this point. Fastest lap of the race for him is a 1:57.7. That's about right for the man who sat on the pole and has opened up 11-second lead on Grandmark now for second position. No real threat to the top two positions. Croak could potentially have a fight on his hands Simon could potentially have a fight on his hands for third. They are only a few tenths back, but this is your leader, and unless something crazy happens, he is going to walk his way into victory for the first race round of this championship. And don't go anywhere, people at home. We're going to have a re-rack, and we're going to do this all again with reverse order in the top 10. And it's going to be real interesting for me to see if Kasprink can get back. Do you think he can get back to the front, Fabian, from 10th?
I mean, looking at the lap times he did, or looking at the gap to Justo Grandmark in P2, which is 14 seconds, they had 11 laps so far. That means that Kasprink was at least a second a lap faster than Justo Grandmark. So he's by far the fastest guy on this grid today. So I think it is possible for him. But it obviously depends how well he's with overtaking. We haven't seen a single overtake from him today, because he led the entire race. So let's see how well he is with overtakes.
I gotta tell you, that was a very good fight for 5th place. Coming it down to the line there, that was brilliant stuff, as all these guys taking the checkered flag. Fabian, I think those were excellent points that you made there. It's one thing to be quick and to lead. It's quite another thing to have to pass a lot of cars, and you never want to put yourself in traffic. That's why qualifying is so important in any form of racing. But that it does happen like that. Now, this car seems to be going really slowly here. This is the car of Legrecki for 9th position. Is he attempting to wait and potentially get reverse pole?
That's cheeky, that is.
Do you think that's what's happening, Thomas?
Yeah, that is absolutely what is happening. You see the car behind him? That is the 10th placed car, and he's let him have it. So he's now got the P1 in
Oh
the
my
reverse
dear.
grid race.
Well, Mikowski, I would like to say Mikowski had a terrible race. I think he started last, but he actually made it all the way up to 9th with that promotion, and we'll have to pay attention to that in 6 weeks' time. Might that be important? This is your winner. This is Michael Kasprink right now. He has won the first round of the first race, if I dare say it. It's a bit confusing in my head, but here is your final grid or your final order for race 1. Not only did Kasprink win the race, he also had the fastest lap to almost no one's surprise. Like you heard Fabian tell you earlier, he was a second quicker, and you can see that confirmed on your screen right now. The top 10, though, are going to be reversed and will be reversed here in just a moment after a 2-minute warm-up. Looky here, some of the temperatures have changed. It's 20 degrees ambient, 31 degrees on track, a little hotter. Guys, what do we think that'll do to grip?
Well, that will definitely cause them to slide a bit more, and with the faster drivers coming back through the field, that is going to cause not a few more accidents, but I think quite a bit more interesting racing. It's hard to pass someone if you're both going sideways into the same corner. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the leaders come through the pack.
Well, Fabian, thoughts for the first race?
Well, we've seen bumps, we've seen touches, we've seen overtakes, we've seen small cars going around a big track. I guess we've seen everything that we needed to.
Well, certainly I had a couple of things that I was a bit interested in. I actually wrote some things down as sort of talking points or question marks that I had. First and foremost on that was how would they be able to race each other? It's a big wide track, but as far as like Formula One circuits go, it's actually quite compact. And I was worried about that thing that Fabian talked about being able to pass. Certainly we did see quite a number of passing and some really good overtakes and a lot of back and forth, especially in the second half of the top 10. I was incredibly excited to see that, and I expect you're going to see a lot more of that. So guys, I'll ask you very quickly, starting with Fabian and then Thomas, what do we expect out of this race? Chaos?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's the first race for me to watch with a reversed order. Everything can happen. I mean, we can see some guys being stuck behind slower drivers. We already seen some strategic masterminds, like with who was it? Vegretz? No, not Mashkovsky was it? Wasn't it? Or
It was.
it Vegretzky who went
It was,
on to P10 to
yes.
just get the pole position. Let's see if it works out for him. Yeah, it can go either way.
My short answer is no. My long answer is, well, they've done one race now with the field being quite compact and battling people of their speeds. They've had 20 minutes of that, so this race is so close to that it's effectively having a quick pit stop and doing it again. As we're about to go green now for the next 20 minutes with a reverse grid top 10. So Legrecki in first place, Mikowski in second, leading off the pack up to the first corner. They look so slow getting off the line, but one thing I wanted to point out before is they look slower on the inboard cams than they do on the outside. As we go 4 wide with third, fourth, fifth, sixth there with the sorry, the Discord thing has gone really pixelated for a second.
Oh, they're still going far. They're going 3 and 4 wide, and one car so far off the track they actually touched the barrier. Still 3 and 4 wide here. Boys, you have to settle this out because there's a very tight right-hand corner. Still more touching. Giesta got touched there. If I'm not very much mistaken, I'm not sure exactly who that is. They're more touching, and they're still banging fenders here. Of course, all's fair in love and war in racing. Go on, Thomas.
There was a black car going off. that was Oliver Kraus, and we've already seen Kaspering being in P2, so I put my money down on him for the race win.
Oh,
No
that's so
mistake.
nice of you, Mr. Schmidberger, to take that. That was an incredible start. He got there by going 4 wide, several rows deep, and he got all the way back up there. As we see, a red car is going off into the dirt. No steering in that car when you hit the dirt and bounce around. He's going to try and get the escape road and get back on. But we follow Madzo, who's currently being pursued by Gesta right now. We didn't see much or talk much about Gesta. Gesta was in his own sort of island to start the first race, I should say. He was sort of by himself, but he's certainly not that anymore. And as you see flash in front of you, that's Kasprink, who is getting really close to Legrecki and flashing his lights. I know a few Lapin Party team members who would approve of that particular maneuver. It's lovely stuff. As this battle here, this seems to be a log jam for 4th place, as Madzo looking back onto Gesta, Simon, Crook, and Grandmark, as everybody, all cars going everywhere there, everybody keeping it fairly tidy. As look in front, there's already a battle. I think that's the battle for the lead, I believe.
That's true.
Yes, indeed. They're going to be side by side, and it's going to get done. So, Fabian, you didn't put yourself too far out there on a plinth as they go crazy behind them.
Yeah, I think the race for P1 is already over. We've got Michael Kaspering now in P1, and if he shows us the same performance as in the first race, no one will touch him. But it also looks like, at least now in the third lap now, that the strategy for Milos Legrecki worked out, as he is still in P2 and he started from P1 with his strategic mastermind of slowing down in P9 and waiting for P10 to pass. So maybe that works out for him. Currently it looks like so.
As we have all the 3 golf racing cars in 3rd, 4th and 5th, it's going to be so hard to figure out who is who, as we are now watching Valin in the 3rd place with the other 2. I can't tell if they're battling him or whether they're protecting him. They look like both of his bodyguards, as they actually all line up to go into these serve corners. As we watch the last golf racing car, I think that is of Grandmark or Simon, I can't quite figure that out. I think that is Grandmark, defending from Simon and Giesta in 6th and 7th place. As 3rd place, I can't tell whether he is slow or whether the draft at the end of that line is really, really good, because whatever he does, like throwing the car into that corner there, he cannot get a break. He's thrown it in so hard that he cannot even get it on the exit correctly, as I think that's Grandmark there made a mistake, and he's now lost 2 positions. No, sorry, that was Madzo. Yeah, he's lost it to Grandmark and Simon. So Simon steadily making his way up the field. As I look back on the leaderboard, Kasperink in 1st has now gained a 3-second gap to Legrecki in 2nd place, and the 3rd, 4th, 5th, the massive rest of the race train is catching up to the 2nd position. So we will in a second be seeing a battle from 2nd to 12th place or so. Once that gets going, as we now on the fender of Valin, as we watch him defend from Grandmark. Grandmark has the inside. He brakes just a little bit later, turns it in, and they have a little bit of a touch, and he's pushing him out on the outside, and he doesn't give it back. He just Valin has to come off the throttle, and he ends up losing another position to Simon. Simon is not so much making positions up by his own skill, not to say that he's unskilled, but people around him seem to be going off with battling so hard. He's just staying on his line, just intimidating the cars in front of him, and they seem to be going off for him. As we watch again, I think that is Brown off the track, or is that Krautsitz? I cannot really tell with these liveries. I'm not used to them, but I'm sure
that is Krauts indeed. Krauts has went off the track again. That's not exactly what you wanted today. That's the 2nd time lucky through there, Thomas. That's not great for him. He'll be happy to get out of Spielberg. He will be happy to go somewhere else. That's not been the greatest thing for him, as for the very moment things have settled down. And I just want to talk about Simon for a minute there. That was actually brilliant in my opinion, because he let them push each other and make their mistakes, and he gained from it. That's like something I would do. I'm all about that kind of thing, as we have side-by-side action here down the grid. It's the toe means so much more than I ever could have possibly predicted here. These guys are going for it, and you have to. You have to have, when you have an opportunity in these cars, you have to take it. You see a bunch of them going wide in the first turn, not really respecting track limits so much, as this is Giesta looking behind, and that's Wallen, or I can't pronounce your name, I apologize. But he is going to be attempting to make this pass on Giesta. Giesta doesn't want to do that, takes the inside defensive line. There's a touch. He turns in early, and there's a touch, and that's going to make Giesta squirrely. He's going to lose 3 spots. A desperate move and a touch. That might have been too much, guys.
We've seen that incident a few times now. I think around the outside, they're expecting the guy on the inside to not have as much speed on entry, and they turn in to grab the apex. We actually watch Crook now up on the inside of Van, and he actually gets it, brakes a little bit, and he gets a little bit of a tap and just says, thank you very much. I will use that momentum and against you, as we move into the infield section of the track, if you can call it that. As the 2 golf racing cars, the 2 Swedes in the back touch, and they're still both going, as we actually watch Giesta getting a bit squirmy, and Smith use that as an opportunity to go up on the inside. So this train is starting to eke out a little bit, just because of all the contact. I think the first race is very much just testing the water, and this second race is very much throwing everything you have at it to see what sticks. There's no strategy ploy in what position you will finish in will change for the next race. This is all or nothing, and they only have 12 minutes left to make the best of it. As Kaspering, we keep going back to him, he is now 7 seconds ahead of everyone else, as I believe that is the first Sweet of Valn just gone off track there, or was that Mazdo?
No, you're absolutely correct. That is Valn that looped it there. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you said Mazda earlier. Now I'm starting to call this guy Mazda, and I really apologise. As we watch Smith go up on the inside on the first corner, and he's on 2 wheels.
Oh no! Terrible crash! Terrible crash. The Jägermeister car goes end over end. That's got to be a record here at Spielberg for the most amount of tumbles. Get that man. He's going to need a Butterfinger or something. That man is loopy. I've never seen that before. How many times did he roll? Sorry to take over, but I jumped out of my seat, guys.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Oh, I watched it on the replay, so we see it once, twice, and then he gets back on the ground. So I think we already have our driver of the day.
What a legend. Took 4 rolls, and he's going to keep going, folks. His race isn't over. That's incredible stuff, as it appears as if Edwards has had issues again and is in 13th position, and Mikowski, who is in 12th position, is a bit back as well. Kraus, by the way, who has been to the kitty litter as well, has seemed to have fared better than some of the others and is only in 11th at the moment, though he is quite far back. We look at Alexander Crook, who is under fire here from Wagrecki, and Wagrecki is going to have that. Does Crook have anything for him on the inside? He certainly thinks he does as they go to the inside. No, he doesn't, as it turns out, as that move comes off perfectly, and Wagrecki now has the 4th position. Now, of course, this is a points-paying championship. The races, every position matters, and as you heard Thomas say earlier, this is the final race of the day, so there's no sort of strategy other than to go fast. But Gronmark, by the way, guys, it must be said, Gronmark has had an excellent race too, because he has minimized the damage here essentially by getting himself all the way up to 7th, but or 2nd, I should say. By the way, this fight is not over. This is Wagrecki and Crook again. that battle is not going to end. Look how far Crook goes to the outside, trying to get as much momentum down the straightaway as he can as he takes all the curbs, both on the entrance and the exit. They are going to be deadlocked here pretty much side by side. The inside line should have the advantage,
Always
or at least
pushing
you
off.
think that. Oh yes, a bit of a nudge in the wheel arches, as you said earlier, but they are still side by side. You can only imagine that Regrecki will have the advantage to the inside. Will he, though? Yes, he will, just slightly, as they continue to touch, and all that's done is brought Giesta back into the fight. Look who's back, boys. The boys are back in town, and Giesta says, if you keep fighting like that, I'm going to have both of you.
Yeah, but they have to be a little bit. They have to be alert, because if they continue with too bad driving standards, then they will probably get reported and also reviewed by the stewards. So even if those cars are willing to drive alongside each other and bump into each other, they should still be trying to be as safe as possible, because otherwise they will get penalty points.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just because you can race like a touring car race, that doesn't mean that you can take liberties or go too far, Fabian. I think that's an excellent point. You are still under the watchful eyes of stewarding. No live stewarding, of course, but that's not the point. The point is that after the race, a driver can file a protest. And that is the common way that stewarding is done in these type of races. So if you go too far, you might be found to be in violation of the rules. And that is a very good point, because it's all fun and games until somebody gets their feelings hurt.
And that's not what you want with the kind of smaller championship. As actually, in fact, I'm going to come back to that, as we are watching a battle for 6th place with Regrecki and Brown. Regrecki, although starting in, I believe, 2nd place, he is trying his best, and he's now actually battling side by side. His number keeps changing from 6 to 7, and he hounds off the drive behind him of Brown. He just grabs the center of the road and makes sure he can't get anywhere, as he actually heads very close to the grass there. Very lucky that's not a braking zone, otherwise he would have been spearing off the circuit, and he sends it a little too wide. He's slowing down, hits the gravel a little bit, and Brown grabs the inside, and he tries to get a little bit, and he again goes for the grass. I think he thinks that is part of the runoff. And he's trying to use it to his advantage, but that won't help you. That will just dirty up your tyres and cool them down, and you will not have enough traction to get round the next few set of corners, as Brown is actually well off into the distance now. I don't think he's going to be seen much by Rogowski, as Mazzo, not Mazda, Jesse, is coming up behind him. And I don't know if something happened to Regrecki during the race, but his pace seems to have really slowed down since the beginning. The beginning he was holding a good 3 to 7 second gap to the leader, but now he is just losing positions left, right and centre as he goes again on 2 wheels up on the last corner there. Maybe he's attacking the course a bit too much. These vehicles, as I think Jesse pointed out before, do require some amount of finesse to continue the velocity of the car. You don't want to be losing too much of that speed. You want to be using the weight transfer of the car to keep your speed and not slow you down by going sideways and throwing yourselves over curves, as we see Mazda now actually still trying to grab the draft, and the Regrecki actually weaving from left to right to try and break the draft coming up to the 2nd corner. And I think Mazzo has just kind of had enough of that. He's pulled up on the outside, and they've had a little bit of a touch as Regrecki goes, and the Mazzo up on the inside and hits his rear right panel, and he's flashing him. I mean, it's not so much you can weave, but not in the braking zone. The braking zone, Regrecki did stop weaving left to right, although it was a little bit dangerous. If he continues to do that with Mazzo being as close as he did, they will have an incident. It will be something that I'm not looking forward to reviewing later, because they should have sorted out in the race. Being a steward here as well, RLM, I get to also have to be impartial. Look at all the reviews again, maybe multiple times, as Mazzo hits Regrecki as, I think, a bit of revenge. I think Regrecki went a bit wide. I don't think Mazzo had to go that wide. But after that weaving and the bit of contact that was maybe caused by Rebecca, he just kind of gave him a little tap, made him know that he did not feel appreciated coming onto that first straight, and he's headed off into the distance. As in front of that, I think we have the Portuguese driver of Giesta and Brown battling it for position. And Brown actually got a massive gap now to the cars behind. Let's see if he can pull anything out with 4 minutes left to go, Jesse. Jesse's not here. Fabian, take this out.
Alright, so just a small correction. You said earlier that Miloš Gretzky was starting on P2, but that was actually P1 for him, because he was the driver that backed out of P9 to let P10 by to start on the pole position, but afterwards it looks like that it didn't work out that well, because I guess his pace isn't just as fast as the others. But now we watch Mark Brown. He had quite a few issues as well. He went wide there in the third corner, and if you go wide and go onto the gravel, that means you are very, very slowly rejoining, because the gravel really makes your car go slower. That's what we've seen with Simon Edwards as well. He needed to go through the gravel, and he actually was being stuck in the gravel, and he just could get out of the gravel with 2 kilometers an hour. So that's not very fast, and that's why he is at the dead end of this grid right now.
Yeah, this has been absolutely incredible. I'm not so sure how much stewarding is going to be required for race 1, but certainly for race 2, I feel like there will be more than a handful of stewards inquiries, and the Bosmeister has taken us to show us this is the race leader. This is not Groundhog Day. This is Deja Vu, however. This is Michael Kasprink, who won the first race. He is out front again despite starting in 10th place in the reverse grid for the second race. He made it all the way to P2 within the first lap, and within the first 3 laps, he had made his way all the way to the lead, making the final pass. Grandmark, not to be outdone, has also came from 9th place to 2nd position, pictured here. So that was a great job for him as well. He's actually still under fire a little bit here by Simon behind. Yes, that's David Simon, who's not let him get away. That's very remarkable in 19 minutes or so, that he's not allowed him to get further than that. So that might be something that could play into it. And of course, this is the battle for 5th place. This is Mark Brown chasing down Giesta. This has been continuing, and as my co-commentators mentioned earlier, these guys have been in a heck of a fight with each other, and that's not going to end anytime soon. Guys, I love the suspension travel and the way these cars hit curves. It makes me fangirl all over this. Give a quick update about Smith in 11th place. Something happened to him earlier. He has dropped all the way back to the 11th position, as pictured here. Excellent camera work. We have had a full retirement, and I apologize. I do not know the driver that has fully pulled out, but Nick Smith back to 11th. Mikowski, who we mentioned earlier and have mentioned several times, he's actually in the top 10 now. And Kraus has also recovered back to 9th place after taking a sand adventure, as I will call it, building sand castles. My group of racers call them whenever you go out to the beach. But it's been a really good race, in my opinion. It's been a great first opening weekend. As you see, the time about to expire, 1 tick left and done. Leader will come across the line eventually, and in this race, all these cars that you see here, including Mark Brown, have another lap to do as we pick up Michael Kasprink. The leader came from 10th to take this race, and unless anything, well, out of the ordinary happens here, he will take home this win. That's almost certain, but this certainly isn't. Mark Brown still attempting to get around Giesta. Mark Brown thinking about going the long way around, and I think they do that to get a run, and I think he's got it. They're going to be side by side after the first corner. It's going to kink to the right direction if you're Mark Brown. Mark Brown currently in the lead here. He might have had finally made that pass stick. It took him just about all race, but there's a touch. He gets into his left rear quarter panel. Let's see what happens. We'll see if Giesta takes the wide cut here into the second turn, and yes, he will do. And they still will be side by side. You're not getting it over on me that easily, says Giesta. They're still side by side. This is the final lap. Whoever leads it to the stripe here will get 5th place and that point, and I cannot believe Giesta got back around him. A lot of these drivers, it must be said, have done a marvelous job of doing exactly what Mark Brown's doing here, taking the really wide angle approach and getting the run into the corner while the other driver being very defensive. That's how most of the passes we've seen have come off. But up front, it is none of that drama. Michael Kasprink has won this race. He will come across the line. He could coast from here, flashing the lights, weaving about. Double winner here today in the opening round of the NSU RLM Championship. Excellent job for him, and cannot understate Grandmark, I should say. He has done an excellent job. He's minimized the points hit, guys, and has taken it home for second. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, with the Simon very close behind. It's a shame he could not make a move, as we are actually back watching Giesta and Brown. Brown is up on the inside of the last corner. He hits the apex, but he does not have enough speed to attack Giesta. So Giesta is going to get 5th place, and Brown will get 6th place across the line. Still, in 20 minutes, they're only 26, 27 seconds behind the leader, which is absolutely remarkable. There's no skill cap here, so people of all abilities, ages, backgrounds, all doing this championship race. So it's nice to see them so close. As we now watch the 8th place of Valn. I would really like to speak to you after the race so I can pronounce your name correctly.
Same
if we're
here.
going to be continuing to do this championship over the next 6 weeks. Oliver Crouch coming over in 9th place, and I think after that we have the guys who have had a few incidents. So Majkowski is the first one of the incident makers, or we'll call them troublemakers for the rest of the championship, I think. So Majkowski, Smith and Edwards, the troublemakers. So Majkowski had gone to the beach a couple of times. I know lockdown in the UK has lifted a little bit, so he's gone for a little holiday, built a few sandcastles, and now he's heading to the line. He's still exuberantly hitting the apex, so he hasn't, it hasn't been lost on him that he's in a fantastically fun car to drive. I will have to get my rig set up in a moment and give that a go. And then we'll have Smith come across in 11th place, the man in the Jägermeister car who had rolled the car, was it 2 times, 3 times? And he's giving us
Look
an
at this.
exuberant little ending there. He's just showing us what he could do, flashing the lights, happy that he made it to the end of the race. Not exactly what he was looking for, maybe, but there is still a lot more races to go. So, in first place, we have Kasperink with the even faster time now of a 1:57.6, so that's pretty great. He was definitely pushing throughout that. Gronmark in P2, Simon in P3, Krauk in P4, Giesta P5. P6 is Brown, Madzo in P7, Valn in P8, Krauts P9, P10 is Majkowski, part of the Troublemakers group, P11 Smith, Edwards 12, and sadly a DNF of Regrecki, even though he was doing quite well at the start of this race. I'm not quite sure what sent him off, but it's a shame to see that man go, and we'll see him back for the next round of the NUS Championship.
Well, there you have it. It was a fantastic opening weekend. Keep in mind, unless I'm very much mistaken, this championship is run on a weekly basis. 6 rounds, 5 left, all happening on a Wednesday. It is called the NSU RLM Wednesday Championship. That was the first 2 races, and next week, I hope one of you can tell me where we're going.
Good question. Let me take a look.
It is Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch for 2 races next week. Now, that is going to be fantastic. Brands Hatch, known for some of the best touring car races ever put on, and you know as well as I do, you're going to be right here with us, or you want to be right here with us for that. Just want to thank everybody for being with us today. You in chat, you audience, thank you. And if you're watching this now or watching this in the future, why not like and subscribe? It costs absolutely nothing, and you will be informed whenever we go live with more fantastic racing. Just want to give a thank you to our cameraman slash race director, Jake the Bosmeister Boswell, who very quietly did all the wonderful camera work and provided you the shots that set up the drama today. Fabian Schmedberger for his excellent commentary and analytical nature, and Thomas Crabb for keeping me level-headed today and providing the excellent color commentary that we have very so quickly expected of you. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
Well, I guess I don't know. I'm really looking forward to Brands Hatch. I think the Spielberg circuit is a bit too open for these types of touring cars. These kind of cars I associate with tracks like Cadwell Park and Knock Hill. So going to Brands Hatch with the tighter conditions and the even tighter corners, not tighter corners, but the I think the speeds and the what am I trying to say? The track width is tiny, so it's going to be really hard for the overtakes. I think we're going to be seeing more contact. I think we're going to see even closer racing, and that's the kind of track that I associate with the old touring car class.
Yeah, and also some thought about me, or from me. P1 to P4 actually finished the race in the exact same order as they did in the first race. So that shows us that it is very possible to start from the back of the grid and go to the front, especially if you are a very good driver like Casper and Grandmax, Simon, or Krauk, for example.
Well, Jesse is not coming back, I guess.
Oh no,
There he is.
I was unaware that Fabian had finished his point. Mr. Boswell, do you have anything to say? He's been very quiet, ladies and gentlemen, but he is there. Do you have anything that we haven't covered about this series the next week, or anything in particular that you would like to say as the sort of broadcaster?
Yes, thank you for the introduction there, Jesse, and thanks for the praise you've been giving me along the way. Yes, it's been an epic first round, and thank you to all you guys for turning up and doing the brilliant commentary for us this round. I'm looking forward to seeing you all for the rest of the championship. You did touch on whether they actually race here in real life back in the day. I believe they did. Also, the choice went down to the fact that it was a nice wide track, enabling the guys to really see what the cars are like in race trim, and a track like Brands with very little runoff and narrow track, it's going to be quite testing for the guys to keep the thing on the track. So this was given as a little bit of an easier option for the first race of the championship, and the opportunity to get 4 or 5 abreast, as we did see in a couple of shots during the race. So to answer your question, that was why we had the track choice, and I'm quite excited to see what the rest of the championship brings.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to get in here next week. I am excited because if that's what they can do here, they can go 4 and 5 wide, which they accomplished. Not only did they accomplish it, they pulled it off in with flying colors, I should say. I can't wait to see what they'll do at a little track like Brands Hatch, where sliding the car around is a must to get the absolute best out of it. And if there is nothing else, it is my pleasure to round out the show for today. Thank you all for watching. This has been Redline Motorsports presentation of the NSU Wednesday Championship. We'll be back same time next Wednesday to provide you for 2 more races at Brands Hatch in these wonderful NSU cars. I've been Jesse Lee, and I've been joined by Fabian Schmedberger and Thomas Crabb in the booth, Jake Boswell on the cameras, and Simon with the assist, the boss man, as I call him, for helping get us going here today. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.